So hello folks. I am recording this for my English 101 hybrid class. So that's what I'm showing right now, but I'm going to make it available to all the classes that are going to do a literacy narrative. So I'm not going to talk about specific due dates, but I'll show you where in the course you can find those due dates. And they'll be specific right now to this class that I'm in. So the first thing that I'm going to do is tell you that the literacy narrative is the first major project in the course. We talked about that in class today. And I've put the labor instructions out for you and opened them up a little bit early. So this is where you would go at the top of the course, labor instructions. These are the literacy narrative ones. I want to walk you through kind of what we're doing. This is going to be a 3 to 4 page MLA format literacy narrative essay. And we'll talk in class about what those kinds of things are. But a literacy narrative is not telling people how to be a better writer and maybe giving people advice or kind of encouragement that, I survived it, you can too. It's really you trying to figure out something about yourself. And so you're using the writing to help you think. And you may surprise yourself with what you come up with if you kind of go through that process. So for this essay, we're going to have some specific goals that you're going to set, and we're going to decide some of them as a class. I'm going to give you kind of a checklist for us to sort of talk through and decide what's reasonable for the first essay, and what maybe not what it will look like at the draft stage, but that by the time you get to the revision stage, these things have been taken care of. So that's where we're going with this. The other thing to tell you is that the drafts will be submitted in class. So don't, email me and say, where do I turn in my paper, before class on whatever the due date is. I won't have that slot open until we get to class. You have a chance to ask questions, especially about things like formatting. They're really easy to fix. And then we'll submit stuff. The other thing I want to make sure happens is that you put a particular piece of this assignment on your draft. Sometimes people write them in a separate file, and when they turn it in, it's not in their draft, and then it's not complete. So here's the process. It says here at the top, you're not expected to do all this in one sitting. So I hope that you take some time with this, and you will understand a lot more about what literacy narratives are after you've read the chapter 17 in Yagelski's 10 Core Concepts book, which is your ebook. It's something that you're being asked to read in week 2. So the first 2 steps are what we've kind of talked about in general about finding a quiet spot and getting yourself centered to be able to do this work and be fully present as you're doing this writing. And that'll make it, easier for you to write and also help you get through it faster. So we're going to do some work in class. So the step 3, you won't really understand yet looking at it, but later, we'll have looked at this in class and probably done from the hybrid class. We may do some of this as the hybrid work in week 3, but their invention is it's not creating something from nothing. It's a part of the writing process. Maybe you've heard of it as pre-writing. I don't really like that term because it implies that you can't start doing real writing until you've done this other stuff that your teacher made you do. And invention is actually so much more than that, and it's so critical to being able to write. So I'm giving you some different things to help you figure out what story you have to tell and what point you want to make about it. So you're going to do some work kind of on your own. We'll do some in class too, but on your own, I'd like you to do read through the invention things that you maybe did in class or that you did for the hybrid homework, and then also answer these questions. Work on it at least 20 minutes. I've also got linked here a literacy narrative organizer document that you can use to help you go through the steps which are in chapter 17. And I try to give you what step each of these steps that I'm giving you in the labor instructions, how they correspond to Yagelski's steps for writing this kind of essay. I am asking you to do several slacks as you go through here. So we talked about that in class, what those are. You don't have to put them on the Slacks board, the communications hub that's in your class, but you may. And you may find that that's kind of interesting to do. But if you don't do it, at least pause at these places, write a sentence or two and put it down at the bottom of the draft that you're working on. So they're kind of all collected there at the end. You're going to be drafting your literacy narrative using the goals checklist. That was kind of what I was talking about before. I'll give you kind of a bare bones, skeleton of it. And then we're going to decide in class what we want to work on with this first paper. Some things we'll want, to make it be a complete paper. It has to have a story. It has to do the things that a literacy narrative does. It can't be, some other kind of writing. So those kinds of things we'll negotiate as a class, but then you will also have some things that you will want to choose as goals for yourself. And I'll talk to you about that in a second. So this is 3 to 4 pages, and you're going to be kind of at the drafting stage doing these steps, 4 through 6 of Yagelski's chapter 17, how to write a literacy narrative. If you stop and start, which I hope that you do, like you don't try to draft this all in one sitting, but if you do a Slack every time you stop. How are you feeling right now as you have completed this work, or as you're taking a break? So you might have several when you get done of the step 6 Slacks. The writer's memo is new, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the checklist. I want you to actually answer some questions on your draft so that we as readers, both, me, because I'm going to be reading it as your professor, but also your classmates who are giving you feedback. We want to know what you were trying to do or what you thought you were doing. And so you're answering these questions for that reason. We will talk about the goals checklist, as I said, and develop it so that we have some specific measurable requirements. You're not just at the mercy of whatever I think is good that day. So you're answering these questions. How does this writing meet or exceed the requirements of the assignment? Those will be on the checklist, and we'll talk about that more. I've got something here right now, but I'm hoping to put that on your goals checklist. Things like, how long is it? Is it an MLA format? Does it have narrative elements, or is it just kind of a vague essay about writing or something? And I also want to make sure that you have at least done enough proofreading that it's free from errors that just make it where people can't understand it. It doesn't have to be perfect at the draft stage, but I'd like you to at least have drafted it and revised it enough that it's not, going to make people's eyes bleed, or, they just don't even understand what you're saying because there's so many distractions with the way that the grammar and the syntax and the punctuation, are in it. So take care of that. We'll talk more about it in class. So you're answering that question. How does this writing achieve the assignment? Tell us what you have done. And then what strategies did you use to effectively address purpose and audience? These are things that Yagelski talks about with really everything. It's any writing you do is going to have a particular purpose that you want to achieve and be directed to a particular audience. So tell us what that was. Chapter 17 in Yagelski, I'll show you that in a minute. When you read that, it has things about this in there that you can use. Number 3 is pretty straightforward. What risks did you take, if any? Tell us what you kind of went out on a limb for, so that we can be watching for that and tell you, kind of how well you achieved what you were aiming for with that. And then finally, this is also something that you're going to do specifically. I would like you to come up with 3 goals that are specific to you. One of them needs to be related to literacy narrative. So maybe one of those goals might be telling an effective story, and what specific elements do you want people to give you feedback on and what were you trying to do? So that's that one. But then others can be writing specific, like, but they need to be specific, not just, I need to work on my grammar, but, maybe I want to make sure that my proofreading is good enough that I don't misuse commas as much as I normally do. I mean, I would think for that one, things that that you don't do very well right now, especially at the draft stage, put those in there as your goals. So you have 3 goals that we are going to be looking at, and we will be telling you how well you achieved them as part of our feedback. And then your job from there, when you revise, will be to take what we say and address it. Try to revise in such a way that some of these problems go away or become at least less than they were. As I've got here in bold, you're making sure that you copy and paste this writing, the answers to these questions, into the bottom of your draft so that they're there, and save it all as one file. You know, maybe make sure that you use your naming conventions for your files, so it's not, you know, document 1, document 2, document 57, so that you know what's in it. Maybe it's the title of the essay and then with writer's memo, and you save it that way, and then you can find it later. And then in step 8, you're reading through your writer's memo and writing a Slack about how helpful or not helpful going through this process was. And then put it at the bottom of your draft, label it Slack step 8, put it on the communications hub if you want to. Then once you've got your draft, give it a title, you know, take a little bit of time with it. Maybe you had a title before you even got started, but, you know, kind of go through this. And then step 10, proofread. Go through your draft at least once or twice and review what you've written. Make sure that it's set up properly and formatted. I've got kind of some information here again that's specific to that. And then look at the goals that you were trying to achieve and just make changes that will address those goals. And this is basically the part of chapter 17, or the literacy narrative organizer, that talks about, you know, steps 8, 9, and 10. Revise, refine your voice, and edit. It doesn't need to be perfect at this stage, but you need to have gone through this process so it's a little bit further along than just a draft that you created, you know, 15 minutes before class time. And then the final Slack here, write kind of how you're feeling now that the draft is complete and it's ready to go, and then post it to communications hub if you want to. And then make sure that this draft is saved or exported as a Word document. If you're on Apple Pages, you can write in Pages if you want to, but you can't submit a Pages document. It's not a format that can be read in the software that we're using, or in Blackboard. So, you know, export it as a Word document. If you're working in Google Docs, we can talk about how you can take the Google Doc and make it, bring it out as a PDF so that it keeps your formatting locked in. Google Docs is sometimes not good about doing that when you try to turn it in. So make sure that it's a Word document or a PDF, and that it's available to be submitted in class on whatever date your course calendar or your syllabus says that the draft is due. And you can email it to me before class, so I can submit it for you if you can't get to class, or you're just worried about it. Just, you know, please feel free to send me the email with the attachment, and I'll be happy to give it on-time credit and help you, and even turn it in for you if you need that to happen. So that's the literacy narrative assignment itself. I'm going to go over here really quickly and share something else with you, which is the tab for, let me go over here to the ebook. So I'm going to share this now. Make sure that it's there. Yes. Okay. So this is your ebook. When you click in the chapter 17, that's in the course, like as your homework for week 2, I believe, you're going to go straight to this read chapter 17. So it'll look like this. I'll get this mind tap thing off of here. So it'll look like this. You'll read this, as you can see, understanding literacy narratives, you know, reading them, all of that kind of stuff. These different steps that I mentioned in the labor instructions, they're all here. And but what you can do if you want to look in your book for other things that are helpful, if you hit the X up here at the top, it'll take you back to just the main space of your ebook. And from there, you can do things like go up to understanding narrative writing and read that chapter, which is about stories and effective elements of story. Chapter 17 refers to these, but then it turns it to just literacy. You can also look at the chapter on writing personal narratives if you want to. You don't have to go read those chapters and take a bunch of notes on them, but if they're helpful, go through it and see if it gives you some answers to how do I do this better. So think about that. And then in the, let's see, where is it? Yes, in the apply it activity, that's the literacy narrative organizer. You can click on this and download it. It's a Word document. I have a link to it, but if the link is broken for whatever reason, you can get to it here. So there's that, and then so X out of that. And here's the other thing I want to share with you. So let me go here to, I'm going to show you your syllabus. And this is the syllabus specifically for the hybrid class, but this should be kind of the same in all my classes. You can see that I have some to be determined things about, I know kind of what we're going to talk about, but I don't know what work's going to be for week 3 yet. But I have in week 3 under your homework, I have due next week, the literacy narrative in my hybrid class that's meeting on Thursdays that started in January. This is the date that that's due. It's going to be different for other classes that are hearing this later, but this is when this one's due. And you can find this in your syllabus. So if you go down to the bottom of your syllabus, there's a course outline here. The course outline is before, if I keep scrolling through, before the grade contract letter that you read. So it's kind of between the main syllabus and this grade contract specific stuff, which we have talked about now in class. So I hope that's helpful. If it's not, or if you have questions, please send me an email. If it's a question that I keep getting a lot, I might make another one of these videos to address it so that we can use our time in class more effectively. But that's all I have for you right now. Thanks for listening, and good luck with your literacy narrative.